Hueneme Museum. Today we're going to be bringing you Astrid Adler, who will be speaking on German immigration from Germany, from the occupied area, the old occupied areas of Germany. And today I'd like to welcome Henry Traver, Bard Newton, and his chief of staff, Victoria. I'd like to recognize Jeff Hallhart and all the books that you see on Hueneme and baseball and the farm park. That's all Jeff. And we're looking for our friend Frank Nauman, who will be in a little bit. And we have Commodore Mike Somm here from the U.S. Navy, and his chief of staff, Cheryl. And we'll look around here. Professor Mark Fleischman, an anthropologist, Beverly Kelly, a volunteer, John Adamson, a volunteer, Rose Bouge, a volunteer, Perna Pai, a volunteer, and where's Eileen Tracy? She's here, and I think I got everybody. And welcome, and we'll get this show on the road. How's that? And what is it? Welcome? Welcome.
Thank you very much for the invitation to this event here. My name is Astrid Adler. I'm 50 years old. And I'm coming from Thuringia, and he said it was a Russian occupation zone in the time of GDR after World War II. And I'm doing genealogy since some years, around 10 years. And I want to tell you something about my work, about the history, its local history. And I wrote the first English book, a German book. And so, because many Americans were asking me, why don't you write an English book? We don't understand German. And this was my intention to think about maybe, okay, I could write an English book, but you need friends. And only without friends, it's not possible to write a book. And it was a work of almost 3 years. To write this book. It's not so thick, it's only 176 pages, but you can believe it was a hard job. And my friend Sue, she's sitting here, she is my friend and my editor, and she helped me to realize this project. Now I will say maybe something working. How can I?
Lower. No?
I don't know. It's American equipment. Yeah, equipment is the same. Yeah, I started here. It's coming. Where did you run? Thank you. Yeah, the book has a history, a long history of 3 years, I told it, and all began in the year 2012. I'm coming from Tiefenort. This is a little village with about 3,500 inhabitants, and we had 2012 anniversary, the 875th anniversary of Tiefenort. And for this event I created an exhibition about emigration in our area, and this was the first exhibition of its kind in Thuringia. And the interest was huge. It was, many people came. I had in 9 days 1,200 guests in the exhibitions, and the exhibition was only open 4 hours every day. It was amazing. And as a result of this exhibition, I published in 2013 the book Vergessene Menschen. It is translated Forgotten People, forgotten because in Germany the immigrants are forgotten, or at this time they were forgotten. My experience is almost 99% of the inhabitants of my village didn't know that they had immigrants in their families. And after this publication, I began to translate this German book with a friend from Maryland, and also I went with him to Milwaukee, going for research in the archives, and the translation stopped at the end of the year because my friend got a new job, but I had luck. Susan from Camarillo found me on the internet. She was looking for her ancestors, and she found her ancestor came from Stadtlengsfeld. It's a town near my village, so almost 8 miles distance. And so it began a friendship grew. And then I invited her. I said to her, come to Germany. And my experience is the most Americans say, okay, one time in my life I'm going back to Germany. I want to see the origin place or the hometown of my ancestors, but the most don't come. And so I helped her to find a place to stay overnight, and I showed her a little bit our area and explained her something, and I got a contact to an historian of her town, and so she got a lot of knowledge, insider knowledge of the area. And then 1 year later, in May, she came. When she was in Germany, then I was on vacation with my husband in California, and I stayed in Westlake Village, and it's not too far from Camarillo, and so we used the time to keep in touch, and so we decided, okay, the same year I'm coming for translation of the book. And so it was working and working. Almost every day we were working online on the book, and the horrible historical newspaper articles we had to translate together. It was really hard to translate the old German into English. And then in September last year, she came a second time to Germany, and we did the last update, and then finally in November the book was finished and published. And it's also possible now to get it on the book market here in America at Amazon. This book is dedicated, like all books are dedicated, and for me it was from my intention to dedicate it to the immigrants from my area. And these pictures are all immigrants from my village, and 2 are from another village. But meanwhile, I have a really good connection to other historians in my area and to many families in Germany and in America, and so I'm happy that I can show some pictures. It's not so often that you can find pictures of the immigrants. The emigration, about the time what I wrote, is the main time between 1840 and 1900. Why this time? The most people began to leave their home country in the 40s, and then came the big wave in the 50s and in the 60s, and later after the 70s. Not too many people left Germany. But you can see here I have a little statistic of some villages and towns, and you can see these are all names of our area, And in some villages we have more than 50% of the people who left. And from where I come from, at Tiefenort, we 35% left, and so it's going on, and you can see it's a lot of people, many people emigrated, and the big question is why they emigrated, and I get always the questions from the descendants from the United States. Can you give me more information, local information, why the people left their home country? And that's why I wrote this book. Between 1840 and 1900, about 97% emigrated to the United States and some to Canada. Some people in the 50s emigrated to Australia and Colombia, and some to South America. And you see an example in 1856 and 7, I found 2 ship lists with immigrants from our area, started from Hamburg to Colombia, and these names are names of villages and towns in my area, and you can see the immigrants traveled together with friends, relatives, and people of the neighborhood and the neighbor villages. It's not so often that they traveled alone, they traveled always in groups. In the book what I wrote, I have also some information about family genealogy, because I had the feeling sometimes the Americans don't really know how difficult is it to find records in Germany. I am coming from the Grand Duchy Saxe-Weimar-Eisenach. This is really a little area of Germany, and compared with the United States, it's tiny, it's really tiny. But in our area there are many little villages and towns, and it's sometimes to look for the needle in the haystack. And you must know where you can find the records, you must know the names of the area, and then you have a chance to find immigrants and their families. And we had in the 17th century a war over 30 years, and in this time many churches burned down, and 67% of the population was killed in this time. And because so many buildings burned down, that's why many records are lost also in our area. It's not only lost in World War II, also in the time before. And sometimes people say to me, oh, I want to look for a gravestone. We have gravestones in cemeteries in Germany, but the average time of how long a gravestone is standing is between 20 and 50 years in Germany. It's not like here over 100 years or 200 years. The place is limited on our cemeteries, and that's why the people have only some years a gravestone or a grave on the cemetery. And sometimes if you are looking for wealthy people or people who were very famous, then you have a chance to find older gravestones, but normally 50 years and not longer. Where you can find information in Thuringia. We have several kinds of archives, and the best source are the church archives. And the church archives are on different places. It depends on if you were Catholic or Lutheran or Jewish. And the Catholic archive is the Bistum archive in Fulda. This is today's federal state Hessen. The Thuringian archive of the Lutheran, this is in Eisenach. And then we have an archive in Marburg. There are the old maps of the area and very old documents, so around 1100 to 1500 in this time. Also, we have the registry offices in our area. Each town and each village has to document the birth, the death, and the marriage. And if you do a request to the towns, to the town community, the data security in Germany is very strong, and it's not so easy to get information. That's why you have to explain that you have an interest because you are thinking this is your family and you have to talk with the people. I know it's hard when you are not speaking German, but sometimes you find some, he can help. A good source, these are the town's archives, and in these archives there you can find the local newspapers of the 19th century. And the local newspapers were for me a great source to find immigrants. I'm saying something later about the newspapers. Another option to find information about immigrants are private databases. In our area in Thuringia, I can say the database with the most information. This is www.tiefenort-emigrants.de. This is my database, because the most historians in our area, they collect many information about people in the villages, but nobody has specialized in immigration history. And when you have the chance and you would like to watch on this website, you can see when you open the website, there is on the first side a list with names of the villages, and from these villages I have people in my database, and from time to time I am doing an update of this list, and this is a good way to find members of your family, lost members. Last year in April I was in Ventura, and the people there were asking me if I can show a map of Germany. Germany has a very complicated history because Germany was split in many kingdoms and duchies and grand duchies, and that's why the borders have changed several times in our history. And you see, Prussia, this is the biggest kingdom in Germany, and I'm speaking not about Germany's German-speaking lands, we say today, because sometimes some places are today Russia or Poland. That's why it's German-speaking lands. And from where I come from, this is here, this little place. It's really little, but this place was a very poor place, and that's why so many people emigrated in the 19th century. How was the situation in Germany in the 19th century? You see, at the beginning of the century, 80% was agriculture, and 10% of the towns, they had rural areas. It was similar like a big village. And there we have only 10% for towns. We had some towns, but not many. And between 1816 and 46, we had 14 bad harvests. And the bad harvest was one reason for the emigration. Then we had also political problems. We had the revolution between 1848 to 49, and at the beginning of the 50s there began the industrialization in Germany. It was later than in other countries in Europe, maybe in Great Britain or in France. The Industrial Revolution came earlier than in Germany. Between 1800 and 1860 the population doubled, and this is a sign we had many people in Germany, but we had only a limited space for agriculture, and this is normal that people were hungry in our area. We had in our country 3 wars which were important. These were the German-Danish War, the German War, and the German-French War. And between 1851 and 1900, around 6 million Germans emigrated, and the most emigrated to America. What was happened in our area in the Grand Duchy Saxe-Weimar-Eisenach? This is another map of our area. We had the Ernestine duchies in our area, and they were the Duchy of Saxe-Altenburg, the Duchy of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, the Duchy of Saxe-Meiningen, and the Duchy of Saxe-Weimar-Eisenach. And as a result of the Congress of Vienna in 1850, Saxe-Weimar-Eisenach became a Grand Duchy. That you can imagine how big is our area. I compare this with the territory from Rhode Island. It's similar like the area from Grand Duchy, and the inhabitants, it's similar, the same number of inhabitants like in Wichita, Kansas. And we had all together 625 villages and towns in the area. These are the bigger villages and towns. We have also little villages, only with some houses, but I would not say it's a village. And in the book, all these 625 villages and towns written, so you can look for, maybe there is one of my family came from this area or from this town, and it's good to look for the research for the own. The Grand Duchy had 3 districts and 5 counties, and I have concentrated on the Eisenacher Kreis with the duchies, with the counties Eisenach County and Dernbach County. Both counties had several offices for administrations, and I think I have not to read it. You can read it in the book. Too much. Here is an example of the population development in Eisenach County. This was a county where the poorness was not so on a high level like in the Dernbach County. And you can see between 1873 and 67, there is not so a big difference between the numbers of inhabitants, and it was different to the Dernbach County. The Dernbach County is also said it's the German house of poorness, and that's why more people emigrated. You can see in the last line, this is the town of Stadtlengsfeld, and look here between 43 and 1988, around 600 people left this town, Stadlengsfeld, and this is a sign that the poorness was very high in this area. And in the other towns, it was not there were not so many people who emigrated, but also it was a lot. In our area, we had not much industry. We had some little factories like a watch factory or a brewery or a porcelain manufacturing in Stadlengsfeld, but the Industrial Revolution don't really reach our area. These were very little companies, maybe with 10 or 20 employees, but not more. In 1958, the railway section, the first railway section, was established in our area. These were only 81 miles. And later came a section of 17 miles, and there were no more industry or something. What I could tell you, we had only agriculture in our area. After 1900, then began the better life in our area, because from where I come from, in this area is famous for potash mining. Still today we have mining in this area, and with the mining the people earned money, and they came from the Dernbach County and the Eisenach County for working in the mines. The causes of emigration, one reason was the economy. Yeah, I like this picture. So big are the potatoes in America. But you have to imagine, the people were hungry. And when people sent letters to Germany, they spoke about a better life. All was better than in Germany. And that's why this picture shows all is bigger in America than at home. And it's still today. The milk is bigger, it's more, and all is bigger than today in Germany. In between 1860 and 50, I stated before, we had 14 bad harvests, and the beginning of the bad harvest was in 1815. A volcano in Tambora in Indonesia broke out, and the world climate has changed. And I have in the book also a weather report of the year 1815 to 16, and it shows how the climate has changed. It was within 10 days after the volcano broke out, the climate has changed, and Indonesia is far from Germany. Then we had the great hunger famine because the potato plate swept to Europe from America, and this was another reason that the people had not much to eat. The people were working in normally 11 hours a day, and at the weekend only 8 hours. The average income was 120 thaler. It's similar $120. Here I have a schedule from what the people ate in our area. It's from 79 to 80. This is the better time. This is the time after the big wave of emigration. And you see, we have every day coffee, potatoes, bread, potatoes, coffee. It's every day almost the same what the people had to eat. And the coffee, it was not coffee like today we know it. It was coffee from white beans or carrots. It was I think it's very delicious. We had local wars in our area, and the most important local war was the German war. It was a war between Prussia and the Kingdom of Bavaria, and the Grand Duchy Saxe-Weimar-Eisenach had to provide soldiers for Prussia because there was a confederation between both. And not too many people emigrate, young men, especially young men emigrated. The military was not so important for immigration. But I have also an example in my book about a young man, and it was the time of the Danish War, German-Danish War, and he afraid that he had to go to the army, and so he left secretly at night the village and emigrated to Pennsylvania. I told you in the town archives you can find many information of the immigrants, and with a decree from February 1848, immigrants who wanted to emigrate legal, they had to publish an intention to emigrate, and in this intention you can find a lot of information. This intention had to print 2 times within 8 days and were published in the Eisenacher Wochenblatt, and later the name was Eisenacher Kreisblatt, and for the people in the High Thuringian Rhön in the Geiserer Amt it is called, it was published in the newspaper Fulda Zeitung. And this is such an announcement. Here you can see it's about Johannes Schäfer from Berka-Werra, and all these publications are translated in the book, and you can find information from where they come from, the profession. Sometimes it's written the name of the woman, of his wife, the name of the children, how many people emigrated with him, and sometimes also the father-in-law or the mother-in-law traveled with them together when they were a widow or widower. And this is a good base for the research, this kind of publication. On my research about my home village, I can say 40% of the immigrants published such an intent to emigrate. This is not 50%, only 40%. And all the other 60% I found through the ship list or the American census or information from descendants. But only 40% published their intention. In the 50s of the 19th century, emigration became a big business, and the shipping companies sent agents to the areas in Germany, and they prepared the immigration of the people. And say in this area we had many agents, and sometimes there were also people of the villages and towns with an own business, and also they organized to sell the farms because the immigrants needed money for the crossing. And I know an example that one agent earned a lot of money because he bought the yards and the houses from the immigrants, and he made a lot of money. the immigrants organized all what the people needed for the crossing. They organized the immigration approvals, final documentations, and the average time what an agent needed for the organizing of the journey was about 2 months. And when the immigrant got the license to emigrate, they lost their citizenship. And this is a passport of a Kaspar Niebergall. It's I got this passport from a man in Utah, and he has it in a safe at a bank, and he gave it to me, and this is the picture of the owner of the passport. And I would like to read something from the passport, because they had in this time no picture, and it's funny how the description of this immigrant. Kaspar Niebergall was a day laborer from Kieselbach. He was 29 years old, 5 feet and 6 inches high. He was slim, blonde. You can see it, he was blonde. He was small. His eyebrows were dark brown. His eyes were greenish brown. The nose was pointed. The mouth was in preparation. The teeth, front teeth were healthy. One tooth is missing. The chin was oval. The beard was dark brown, and the shape of face was longish. And also in this line, it's very little written. It's explained that who of the family traveled with him. And in this example, it is his wife and 2 children and the sister of his wife. And where people are working, some mistakes can happen. The name of the wife is a mistake. I checked it in the church records. In this record is written the name was Moira, but the real name was Meyer. So it can happen. It's like today, who's working, he makes also mistakes. In the 19th century, you can find in the local newspapers a lot of announcements. Here left you can see a license of the agent. This license is normally limited for a year. On the right side, this is a literary advertisement for a handbook or travel book. You have announcements for guidebooks, for maps. You can find a big variety of publications like this in the old newspapers. And from time to time, but it was not common, you can find also a farewell message. I found one message, but it was not common. In the 50s, many people emigrated. The big wave was working, the big wave of emigration, and for many communities it was cheaper to support the immigrants and give them financial help than to support the people over many years. And I have a funny example about the town of Kalden-Nottheim and how the town supported the immigrants, or the poor house. Many poor people lived in Kalden-Nottheim's poor house, and for years the burden of support fell on the community. When the poor folks expressed to desire to emigrate, this pleased the community. When the mayor heard about the costs, however, he was not happy. Without hesitation, he turned to the district office in Dernbach, seeking a significant contribution towards these travel costs. It turns out that the poor also lacked shirts, shoes and stockings. But the district office also provided the means for this as well. Ultimately, the immigrants only got the money for the journey once they were on board the ship. By then, the cost of the crossing had been increased from 20 to 30 thaler. The district office in Dernbach also hired a wagon master from the town of Meiningen who accompanied the immigrants, along with 2 surgeons, to the port of Bremen. They were put on the board on the 3 masters sailing ship Louise to Baltimore. This is a little bit a funny example, but the towns were happy that the poor people left to America. Now you have it. Always these descendants were asking me how was the trip or the journey from their hometown in the middle of Germany to the port cities. You saw a map, and it's a long distance, and until 1850 the most people traveled with on board of river rafts. I have some examples when they traveled with hay trailers. Some traveled probably with carriage, but it depended on the money. And the travel time lasted between 2 and 4 weeks on average. The travel with hay trailers, I have a story in the book. This was a big event when the people left their hometown or home village. The people were nice decorated, and the hay trailers were decorated with flowers, and people were singing. It was a really big event when they said goodbye to the families. And the hay trailers was probably the cheapest method to the transportation to the port cities. After 1860, we had in some areas a railway system or a connection, but it was not complete in the whole Germany. And I think sometimes people use the railway, but sometimes also it was combined with river rafts and hay trailers, or sometimes they were only walking to the port cities. Here you can see a river map of Germany, and the first point here, this is in the Duchy 6 Meiningen, and this is from this point people used the rafts. The next point, this is so around my area where I'm living. The third is the Werra River and the Fulda River came together, and then they traveled the Weser River to Bremen and then to Bremerhaven. And even the Germans, many Germans didn't know that Bremen is located in inland and is not a seaport. And that's why I used this map to show Bremen. Many of you have seen before the ship manifest, and the name of the ship manifest is the Bremen. They're speaking always about Bremen. Why Bremen and why not Bremerhaven? It's simple. In Bremen there are located the shipping companies. And from there they use the railway, or also on the river they use river boats. The Weser barge is the name for the special kind of boats coming to the port and then to begin the crossing. The distance from here, from the beginning to Bremerhaven, is round about 500 miles. And when you see 500 miles and on a raft, on a river, it was probably not fun always. Another problem was on the riverway, the river tolls, because the riverway is not going always straight on. Sometimes the river is flowing in the Grand Duchy Saxe-Weimar-Eisenach, then it's going to the Electorate Hessen, and then it's going back to Saxe-Weimar-Eisenach and to the other duchies or kingdoms. And each duchy or kingdom had an interest to earn much money with river toll. And I have also found an example that the rafts from the Werra River, from this river, they took the raft and transported it to the river Fulda River, only that the country or the Grand Duchy or Electorate can save the money on the river, the toll. When the immigrants arrived finally in the port cities, they were looking for tickets, and around 1850 the people had to wait when the ships left to overseas. And at first they had no fixed prices for the tickets, and sometimes people have problems in the port cities because it was for people from my area like a foreign country. They spoke in the northern lands and different dialect than at home, and that's why it is also that you can find in the ship lists mistakes, and the names of the immigrants are not right written because the people didn't understand what they said. And people had in the first years also to buy food and all what they needed for the crossing. Only later, after 1850, they could buy it in the immigrant's house, and it was not so expensive like the years before. And that you can imagine how much the people had to buy. I have an example for you. The minimum of provisions for each passenger included 42 pounds of bread, 7 pounds of oat flour, rice, beans, pans or lentils, or 100 pounds of potatoes, 15 pounds of salted meat, 4 pounds of butter, 3 pounds of salt, and 2 liters of vinegar. Also is a lot when you imagine a family of 4 persons. This is a little family in this time. They needed a lot of food for the crossing, and then in the first years they needed also mattresses for sleeping and many other things for the crossing. And they were on the ship on average between 6 and 8 weeks, sometimes longer. I have examples, 10 or 11 weeks they were on board of a ship. In our area, there was working the Thuringian Association of German Immigrants, and this association supported the immigrants for crossing for their journey. They helped them to get all what they needed for the crossing, and they gave them help when they arrived in America for the travel into America. This is such a publication of this association, also published sometimes in the local press of the time. Also in the port cities, because in the 50s many people arrived in the port cities and wanted to immigrate. That's why it was a good place for crime, and that's why we find in this time many posters for protection of young girls, and this is such a poster it explains the young girls who are traveling alone where they can stay in Bremen overnight, and in this poster it's written they have to go to pastors, the Protestant pastor and the pastor of the Catholics in Bremen, and there they could wait for the crossing. The first time, around 1830, the immigrants traveled with cargo ships, and the ships were 40 to 50 meters long, and on average 60 to 80 passengers were on board. And the ticket price wasn't fixed, and the journey lasted between 6 and 8 weeks or longer. I said it. Passenger had to supply food, dishes, mattresses, etc. And in the book I have also letters of that time, and the letters describe the time on board, and it's really interesting what all can happen on a journey during this time between 6 or 8 weeks. And after 1850, I told it the crossing or the immigration was commercial organized, and meanwhile they had quarterdecks in the ships, and up to 200 passengers were on board. We had fixed prices for the tickets, but the time of traveling was the same like in the 13th. Between 1850 and 270, there was a transition period to the steam navigation, and in this time up to 500 persons were on board of the ship, and the time of crossing was then shorter, between 10 or 14 days. Also of this time I have in the book a letter from a resident from Berka Werra, and she describes really good what was happened. Not only the seasickness was a problem, in her letter is also described a matross, is that the right word? He was hanging up, and he was killed on board. Yeah, a sailor, thank you. He was killed on board, and so they had several hardships in this time. Here you can see a picture about a quarterdeck, and on the left side this is a publication for the crossing for the ships of the Germania and the Hansa, and you can see the average price for a ticket is for adults 120 thalers in this time, and for kids after over 10 years 60 thalers, and for infants 3 thalers. the most people from Thuringia left from Bremen or Bremerhaven, and some people from Hamburg and other port cities. It's told in our area that many people left from Netherlands or France because it should be cheaper, the tickets, but I didn't find a record if it is true or not true. So most people arrived in New York and some in Baltimore. In the 40s, the most people arrived in Baltimore, and so in the 50s there began the big wave to New York. And some other, but not many people, arrived in Galveston, Texas, Boston, New Orleans, and other port cities in America. Many of you have seen before a ship list, and it's always a highlight to find people in such a kind of ship list, because here this example is the people came all from Germany, and it's really difficult to find from where they come from. This is a ship list from 1846. And this was my first ship list because some of my family were on this ship. And I found only the names of the passengers from my village because I knew the names of the village and how are the people related. And here you can see in the first line the name is Blaufuß. Then the next line is Schlotthauer, then is coming Storch, and the list is very long, and at least some of my family, my maiden name is Ziller, were also on this ship list, but it was not written like Ziller, it was written like Zillar, and not like the normal name, like we write it. That's why it was very difficult to find the people. And all these people I checked this with church records, and it is easy to find the people when you have the name and the age when they arrived in New York, so you know the time when they must be born, and so it's relatively easy to find the people in the church records. When the immigrants arrived in America, the most were in Castle Garden in that time, about what I was writing. And in 1892 then began the immigration in Ellis Island. I wrote a little bit about this immigration centers, but I think the most Americans have heard something about Ellis Island and Castle Garden, and especially Ellis Island. It was at the end of the century, and the most people from Germany immigrated earlier. And after 1900, there began the wave of immigration because we had the wars in Europe. But this was not the subject of my book. Maybe it's the subject of another book, but not mine. And so, it is. The most immigrants, when they arrived in New York, they stayed some days in New York City, and then they went on the Erie Canal to the inland. And also I have a story in this book from the year 1833. It's an excerpt of a letter, and it tells about the time when they arrived and then when they went into the country. Many people traveled from our area to
Turn it off.
And yeah, the people, many went to Texas or also to Illinois, and over the generation, the people are in all countries of the United States. Eins, zwei. Super. Because I have sometimes talks in our area about emigration, and my last talk was in October in a little village. The name is Kalden-Lengsfeld, and in time of preparing of this event, I got the information that there was working an association from the Rhineland. They organize crossing for people from our area to Texas. And this was also new for me. And it was a settlement project only in time between 1842 and 47, and the deep sense was if this association wanted to establish a new Germany in Texas. But finally, the project was not successful. It was a disaster because the association was insolvent in 47, and many people were very disappointed because they had contracts. With the immigrants, and some arrived in Texas, and they had a special contract between the association and the Republic of Texas, and this is such a contract. It is also translated in the book that you can understand it, all agreements, and people had, they got land from the association, but they had to stay a lot, I think 3 years on this land. They have to cultivate it, the area, and that's why in Texas you can find together some towns with many Germans. In this book I wrote about Milwaukee, New London and Baltimore. These examples are typical for our immigrants for their destination. And about Baltimore, I found 4 letters from one immigrant. He wrote to the little village with the name Föhritz, and it's a documentation of almost 30 years. And the first letter tells the time when the immigrants arrived. The second letter describes the time. It was a little bit after the Civil War began. And the third letter describes the time the immigrant wrote to home because they heard in Germany there was a German war in the area, and they wanted to know what the relatives and friends are doing. And the last letter, it described, so he wrote about his life. His wife died, his brothers-in-law, his wife died, and in all letters you can feel the homesickness of the immigrants. me a dream to visit Milwaukee because I found so many immigrants from my village in Milwaukee and in the Milwaukee area, and that's why I was happy that I could go to Milwaukee with my friend in 2013. And so I could feel a little bit the Germans in Milwaukee. It's really today German. And in this time, 43, they had 138 taverns from 40 inhabitants, each one tavern. And I can say also one from my village had a tavern. They had 6 big German newspapers. They had many newspapers, but some newspapers were working only a short time, and then they had to close. And yes, the population growth was every 10 years around 70 to 80%, and the town grew. And at the end of the century, around 70% were Germans in this town. This is a result of the research of my village, and it shows these are all families from my village, and all they live close together in Wisconsin, in neighbors counties, and they were close connected all over the years, and even after some generations, the families found together. I have an example that a family emigrated in 54, and then another family emigrated in 81, and the kids found together in the period. It is crazy. And in the book I have also some stories about immigrants, only a little selection. The first story is about Nathan Weiss. This story is my thanks to my friend Susan. She edited my book, and it is her ancestor. And it's a very interesting story in her family of famous persons, and it's very, very interesting. The second is Heinrich Baumgärtner. This is from my village, a man, and I don't know. And Heinrich Baumgärtner was a very respected person in Milwaukee. He was president of the city hall. And when I was being in Milwaukee, I had a guide tour in the city hall. And we were on the tower, on top of the tower, and there was a big bell. And the guide told me there is something written in the bell, and he told it, and he was so proud about what he read. And I told him, yes, he came from my village, who wrote it. The second story is about Kaspar Niebergall. He is the man with the passport, we saw it. And this is, Kiesebach is a neighbor village of my village. And it's a very interesting family story. At first, Kaspar Niebergall emigrated with his wife and the kids. And 6 years later, the father has married in Germany, and he came to America with his second wife and 6 other children. And so it describes so the way of the family and where at least they settled in the States. And in our area, all people are Lutheran, and Kaspar converted to the Mormons. Dagmar Adler, some of you would think maybe he's related with me, but he isn't. Adler is very common name in Germany, and Dagmar Adler is also coming. He's coming from Lengsfeld too, like Nathan Weiss, and he's Jewish. And after his mom died, the father emigrated with Dankmar to America, and they settled in Detroit and in Chicago. And Dankmar became a famous architect, and he has many buildings. Many buildings of him were built in Chicago or also in Milwaukee. This is a picture of Heinrich Baumgärtner. I told you he was a very respected politician in Milwaukee, and that's why I found. That's why I found a lot in the newspapers about him and his life, and I have also in the book the last day in his life. When he died, it describes when the doctors came and when he passed away. Very, very interesting. This is Dankmar Adler. He is also told as the father of the modern skyscrapers, the auditorium theater he built, or he was also responsible for the acoustic in the Carnegie Hall in New York. Also he is really famous in Chicago and in the area. And I said at the beginning that many people told me one day I'm going to Germany and I will visit places of my ancestors, and that's why I decided to add some pages about our region. My experience is when Americans come to Europe, it's hard for them to find the places of the family, of the roots, and Americans have no time. When we are going on vacation, we need time for relaxing, but the Americans want to visit so much they can. And that's why I decided to show what they can do in our area, because where I'm living in Thuringia, this is a very old area with old cities. Our area is famous for many castles, and I know this must be to visit a castle in Europe. For the most, it's a highlight. And when people are coming to me, I recommend to visit a little castle, not the big castle in the area. This is the Wartburg Castle, and this is there are so many tourists, and you need a whole day for this. And that's why I prefer to show the little castles, like in Schmalkalden or what else. We have many in the area. And our area is called the Wartburg Kreis District. The name is coming from the Wartburg Castle, the famous castle in our area, the landmark of the region. And someone of you knows that on this castle, Martin Luther translated the Holy Bible in the modern German, like we have it today, the Bible. And this year is a good time to start